Welcome back to this edition of the Gaming Tailgate Podcast. I am CDJ, joined a man who's on vacation, but he's back. He's taken that Big 12 private equity money. It's JB Huskers. JB, how are you?
Good. Good to talk about the game, even though the actual makers of the game haven't talked about it yet, but hopefully sooner than later.
They're going to have something to sell to us pretty soon here. They're going to start talking here pretty soon, I feel. Let's get to the news that's come out since we last chatted. Tommy on vacation now. It seems like you guys, your schedules never line up. The big thing, pieces starting to come into place a little bit for College Football 27. After the last show, the official website went live for College Football 27 and Madden 27 for what that's worth. On the website, not a lot of information, very vague. It says your next shot at College Football Glory is coming soon with College Football 27. Add to your wish list so you don't miss out on updates. They also ask if you're willing to submit your email to keep up with the newsletter, offers, other items. As I mentioned, wish list, and that's probably the first thing that stood out to the community. We get Xbox and PlayStation, but no PC, which is still rumored by Mutt Leaks to be coming. JB, pretty basic website. I gotta think, and this is my prediction, maybe in the next week or two, we're gonna get an announcement of that MVP bundle for college and Madden. That's my prediction on what's coming soon. What is your thoughts on this very basic bare bones site and the rumor of it coming to PC?
Well, I mean, EA has their own launcher, so I don't know if they have a wish list feature, so to speak, or not. I know Steam does obviously with a lot of games that are upcoming, but I'm not sure EA does. So that's probably why that is not out there. And plus, they probably want to make a special announcement because the game has never been on PC before.
Right.
So I would assume that they want to kind of make that its own special announcement on top of, I don't know if you can even wish list games on EA or not. I use it sparingly. I play some old titles on there. They
Mhm.
re-release some old titles on there, but for the most part, I'm a Steam user. So that's probably part of the reason why you're not seeing it there, but I don't think it's a reason to necessarily freak out or anything because I think that's going to be its own special announcement.
And that is something that I believe the Madden website has a link for wish listing on PC. That's why some people took it as meaning it's not
Mm.
coming. Let's revisit the PC talk here in Mutt Leaks. Mutt Leaks, I'm under the impression very reliable, typically obviously giving Ultimate Team content early. He did on May 5th come out and say he's getting a lot of questions about college football on PC. The external beta mentioned earlier, currently live on both Steam and EA desktop. The build size has changed several times, which suggests it's actively being updated. So he believes it's still very likely going to come. His reply to one of the community members says he would be extremely surprised if it doesn't happen at this point. There were signs last year, it was in the works, but the current data points are much more concrete. Hopefully, we'll have more to share soon. And there's some confusion on what an external beta is. The way I understand it, internal is when it's basically EA employees inside the studio. External beta is EA employees outside the studio. It's not necessarily for the public, though I'm guessing if they send out invites, they could get other people involved and probably are. So it seems like it's still coming. He even has beta key art, which in this day and age, an image does not mean anything's legit with the with AI around. But a lot of people still take Mutt Leaks very much at his or her word. I tend at this point to think that they're probably being accurate with their take.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see just what you can do on PC with it.
Hmm.
I'm not a PC gamer. My PC would not be able to
Right,
run
same here.
much. So I stick to basically Steam Deck for my PC gaming, and then
Mm-hmm.
as long as it ain't gonna cost an arm and a leg, I might get the Steam machine.
Hmm.
So it would be interesting to see if college football goes on to Steam with its because I mean there are EA games on Steam, but I mean
Hmm.
my otherwise if not, I mean highly unlikely. I still play a very vast majority of my gaming is on console. So, but I know it's been an ask for a lot of people for a long
Hmm.
time, and it'll be interesting to see if there's going to be mod support for it. And there's a lot of
Right.
questions that are going to come from that.
That's something that last week on the last show, Tommy had mentioned the modder, all the capabilities, and maybe this is a dumb or invalid point. Is there anything they could do to prevent modding? It just seems too good to be true with what we've seen people do with Madden, for example, and
Yeah.
EA is truly worried about name, image, likeness, people updating rosters or adding players that shouldn't be in there. What kind of restrictions can there be? That's just something I wonder. Is it too good to be true?
I think somebody's gonna be able to find a way around it.
It's
It's on PC that's a possibility, where on console it's not really a possibility. They
right.
have to basically unlock it themselves in order for you to do it, and which is, you know, in this generation of consoles, it's been a possibility to use mods with different games, such as Elder Scrolls and Fallout and things like that. But I figure it's only going to be a matter of time before someone figures it out. I don't think it's going to be completely locked out for people.
Some other news that we have for College Football 27, Visa is entering a multi-year partnership with EA Sports College Football and also EA Sports FC for that matter for themed Ultimate Team challenges and NIL sponsorship opportunities within Road to Glory. Here's some of the press release. Not going to reread it word for word. There are some interesting points in here they mentioned specifically. In College Football 27, players can unlock in-game name, image, likeness, sponsorship opportunities within the game's career mode, Road to Glory, reflecting how real college athletes partner with brands. As players accept branded deals, they receive boosts to their stats and attributes, mirroring real-world sponsorship opportunities for athletes. And that's straight from the EA's press release on it. They also mentioned Ultimate Team challenges. This is interesting because I think it's kind of a choose your own adventure. There's some in the community who take that statement to mean that the game is adding an all new NIL mode within Road to Glory. When I read it, the way I interpret it is something that one of our community members, Banyan Hugh, pointed out. I believe it's just going to add basically what's in the existing sponsorships within Road to Glory, just another company. I was struggling to remember how many real companies are in there. Many of them are fictional. There are some real companies. Banyan Hugh pointed out if Chime is not already a real brand, I don't know what they're selling in the game. Chime is a real company. That's very much real. I know I was under the impression at least, there's an almond company that's in there you can get an NIL from. And I thought maybe Chipotle, but maybe I was getting confused with Chime. The similar letters, obviously very different businesses. That's my perception on what Visa's NIL inside Road to Glory is. Maybe it's something brand new and different. I really don't think it is.
Yeah, because I use Chime, so it is a real brand.
Yeah.
It's a
So
bank.
there's
Yeah.
more than I think there's more real companies than we realized in there, but most are very fictional.
Yeah. So I bank with Chime with a kind of a side account. So that's definitely one of them. But yeah, I don't know. There's always obviously there's a lot of AI going on with Road to Glory. So but you really truly got to wonder just how much they're going to actually change it up. You got to figure with as big of NIL being a thing now, that you got to wonder if they're going to kind of make a leap with some more in-depth stuff in year three of this generation of college football.
My concern or worry is that the NIL rules keep changing all the time, that they can't until some things get settled. They might
Yeah.
be just something they introduce could be outdated before the game even launches. But that's
Yeah.
and Dirk Rogers pointed out he goes, it sounds good, but also sounds like a lot of resources. He could be right if that is a brand new mode or brand new aspect. Maybe it is. Like I said, it reminded me of that in-game sponsorship. But if you look at what EA did in 26 with their partnerships with Mountain Dew and Gatorade, they added Ultimate Team challenges. Though Dew did get a team builder, uniform, and stadium, a lot of the stuff were pretty basic. I know it took work, but I don't think it took months of work, for example. Not to diminish anything that EA did there. And some of the sponsorships we saw in Dynasty mode, for example, were nothing more than just logos at the top of the screen. And part of the yearly tradition, we find out the status of the game from Chris Fowler, mentioning when recording gets wrapped up. He shared an update. The commentary is just about wrapped up. Gotta think we'd be getting news soon. Like the commentators are how we get a lot of our info the last few years. For example, Reese Davis last year read some of the names that it had coordinators. That's how we kind of figured out that offensive and defensive coordinators were coming to the game, for example.
Yeah, it's just odd out. Man, we used to get stuff in January and February, March, and now we're about going to be about mid-May, and we're still kind of waiting for anything, really.
All these big companies on yearly titles, like they wait till that 60-day window or less before they really start to market the game. Makes some sense in terms of wanting to, when the game launches, they want the hype to be at a fevered pitch, so people feel like, okay, I got to get this game. But for people like us and people probably listening or watching us, for example, it'd be nice to get some crumbs throughout the year. It'd be nice if they asked for community involvement, name submissions, things like that. It does feel very much like they only talk to us when they want to sell something, which I suppose that's every company, but this is our passion. The people watching, listening, their passion. It'd be nice if it was a little bit more than just, hey, now we're here to sell you something.
Yeah, it's just like with Nintendo yesterday or earlier this week. Nobody knew that Star Fox for Switch 2 is going to even exist, and now
Mm,
it's going to be out in just a little bit over a month from now. So
mm,
we go from not knowing it exists to being 5 weeks away from launch.
which is
So
crazy.
with this, I mean, we're still about 2 weeks or 2 months away from launch. So, but
Mm.
yeah, it'd still be nice to get a little something.
It came out last year that EA was changing their royalty system for college football that would be based on how often the teams were used. So for Missouri State is the only one that is kind of disclosed where they ranked, for example, Ryan Collingwood shared that Missouri State ended up finishing 69th out of 136, second in Conference USA. It ultimately equated to about $100,000 going to the school in royalty payments, which depending what school you are, that's a sizable chunk of change. That's a staffer or two, realistically, that the game pays for.
And that might have been the majority of that might have been the guy in our online dynasty.
I think you're right. He dominated with them, so he probably earned them quite a bit there. JB, people are seeing the game. UCF went on a career tour. They had a thread and they shared what they could of their visit to Electronic Arts in Orlando, some behind the scenes. And let's walk through the story a little bit. They did some motion capture, explored the animation department. Wonder if those celebrations will ever make it into the game at some point. They learned how players and gears are put into the game and how they got scanned. Met with marketing and game development to discuss possible changes to future Madden and college football games, and worked with quality control to playtest CFB 27.
Not too bad for a day's work, huh?
How closely do you think people went through frame by frame trying to find anything they
Oh
could,
God. Oh yeah, I'm sure.
besides me?
Well, yeah. Did you
uh,
find anything, by the way?
Game related, no. The only thing I could find of interest, and maybe I need to watch again, see if I can get it zoomed in here.
Oh, what's on that board?
Well, there's something that says feature details. It says rewards, start regular season with, and then his head is cut off.
Hmm.
Let's zoom in a little bit on that feature details.
Get your binoculars out.
Rewards, start regular season with.
Yeah, what's that on the right?
Oh, that's as far as I can
Uh,
go.
like look at that down, go down.
Got it.
Does that almost, oh no, those look like numbers. And at
It
first
does
it
look like a
almost looked,
number.
at first it almost looked like it said as, and I was wondering if it was maybe a story-driven road to glory and there were actors and whatnot, but I think that might be jersey number and person now.
I think you're right. That's
Or,
true.
well,
That's an E, isn't it? That character, it's
well,
all on those three.
yeah.
I don't know. It's just I really wish he was about 1 inch shorter, so then we can make up at least that one word to figure out something.
Need to get AI on the case here.
Yeah, if any of our listeners or viewers can figure that out, I would I'd love to know. This almost looks like a Twitter bio or header here, but I don't know. It's if anybody else wants to go through that footage and find anything, I would appreciate it. Let's go back to Mutt Leaks here a minute. I thought this was something interesting that our listeners or viewers might find interesting. Mutt Leaks, and I've theorized before this is somebody inside EA. I'm not so sure anymore. Pointed out that, and I will read this for our listeners. Metadata for recent assets indicates generative AI used for some Ultimate Team elements, ranging from possible background fills to full generation. He says, while we can't confirm the exact scale, this is disappointing. Hire more artists. And he shows that he used one of the images that I assume he scraped from PC or wherever he gets his assets from. What's most interesting to me is that he did get a response from a Ultimate Team developer who said, "Stop! That we have 13 full-time artists dedicated to making art solely for Madden and College Football Ultimate Team." I thought that was very just interesting. I don't have a ton of comments on that. I'm sure the initial community response is 13. That's a lot. And I admit I thought that as well. But then my thought went to, well, why can't we have 13 equipment guys or 13 presentation guys or 13 field art? You can see where I'm going with that. We hear that, for example, as we talked about in the past, the equipment crowd is very loud this year. And we get met with in here, there's only one guy at EA really tasked with getting equipment in. I think, why can't we get more? Why can't we get more gameplay guys or more presentation guys or more equipment guys? I think it's great
Well,
to have 13 full-time artists, but let's bump up the entire team.
they have 13 full-time artists. Why are they using AI?
I get the perception from his comment that when he says stop this, that they're not using AI. So I don't know if Mutt Leaks, if the metadata is wrong. If I don't know. I don't know any either one of these individuals, so I can't really say.
Yeah.
But I thought that was very interesting. JB, one last thing. This is not college football 27 related, but I really felt like we should at least mention it because I know there's some college football fans who are going to play varsity high school football, the video game, and they'll, in their own mind, will import those characters in and keep those storylines rolling. What's interesting is they are going to have over 400 real life high schools in their video game. And what's really cool is that other schools can sign up to possibly be included. Long story short, they're using K-12 licensing national network to get these high school teams in. Their real identities, team logos, and uniforms will be brought into the game. So you don't have to, if you're lucky enough to pick one of those high schools, you don't have to go into whatever their version of creative school is. Those assets will already be there. You can pick them and go. You can then go in if you are a representative of a school, go to varsityvideogame.com/K12, enter in some information and they will contact you. And like I said, again, you need to be a school administrator or designated representative authorized to discuss licensing on behalf of the school. But something I think is insanely cool that any game that's not EA football wise is going to have a very tough time getting off the ground, especially if we thought it was a creative school game basically. Well, now that's not the case with varsity high school football. It's going to include some real life high schools. So I can see people buying this game, doing their high school career, and then bringing, obviously, copying and pasting, typing it in, some of those players to Road to Glory and playing with them in college football.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. It's hard to, yeah, it's very hard for a football game to take. There's a couple of them out in the market, but they don't really seem to get much traction, even though they do seem to still put out yearly titles. But yeah, it's very tough to compete. Especially if you know, the level of obviously EA has a big head start on the level of gameplay, and that's going to be the
Mm-hmm.
key thing, especially when you've got 22 guys on the field trying to intermingle. So and football's probably the hardest sport to
Mm.
try to create a game with. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what uh, kind of feedback comes back from people that do get this game.
For full disclosure, I am a Patreon supporter of this game. I have not done any of the playtests though, so I could not tell you firsthand on how it plays. I do think in the brief limited clips I've seen, like it looks good. And now knowing that it's got real high schools, I gotta think that's real enticing now. Like for people, especially if you're one of those 400 plus schools, like alumni or live in the area or just familiar with them. I think there's a lot of potential here. And now all of a sudden that before it was a tough hill to climb, it's still gonna be a tough hill. But I think, man, they really did something cool here by getting that licensing involved.
Yeah, unfortunately, my high school doesn't exist anymore, and plus they only played 8-man football. If you don't know what that is, look it up.
I've heard it's very exciting. I've never seen it in person. I need
Hell,
to go.
we used to have 6-man football back in the day at
That's
some schools around Nebraska. But I don't even know if there's any 8-man much anymore. There may be
there
in a
is.
lot of the smaller schools, but yeah,
Was the D2? I
yeah,
think is 8 man.
yeah. So
Never
that's
really in
what
the weeds.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes, how this plays, and obviously you got to have a fun factor along with it too, and not just make it seem like a slog to get through a game. So be excited to see if this can get some good traction.
JB, quickly, any guesses on cover athletes? We know that Trinidad Chambliss in his lawsuit said that it cost his eligibility status, cost him a chance at the cover, that there were three athletes that were going to be featured. I'll tell you my three. I'm going to guess Trinidad. I'm going to guess EA held off to get him. I'll say Arch Manning, and I'll say Malachi Tony. Those are my three guesses.
Arch Manning definitely off the top of my head. I would say Sane
That's a good
from
one.
Ohio State and maybe CJ Carr
That
from
is a good
Notre
one.
Dame.
Quarterback
I
heavy,
maybe
JB.
yep, trio quarterbacks. That's who makes the money, right?
Well, I'd say last year they had a theme with they picked the two sophomore receivers for being the sophomore version of the game. I
Yep.
don't know what theme they could go with this year unless it's a theme that matches maybe a new feature, for example. I mean, Dante Moore is a guy from Oregon that has gotten some fan discussion. Indiana lost all their guys. Mendoza,
Yeah.
who'd be great on there. I don't know if Signetti on there would be enough. I think they want guys who will promote the game. And while I'm sure Kurt would glad to be on there, I'm sure he would I don't know that he sits and plays the game a lot to do a lot of talking about.
Yeah, without NIL, it would have been Mendoza back in the day. So
Yeah.
that would have been a given probably
Yeah.
that Mendoza would have been on the cover if we were 15 years ago. But
So make sure if you like the show, please subscribe, leave a 5-star review. If you don't like the show, email us podcast@thegamingtailgate.com and then leave a 5-star review. Let us know what you want us to improve and we'll gladly do our best. For Vacationing Tommy, for JB, welcome back. I'm CDJ. Everyone, thank you for watching and listening to this edition of the Gaming Tailgate Podcast.